Hello everyone. You know, we've been covering a lot of systems from the new millennium lately, so I think it's about time we roll back the clock and take a look at this system from the early 1990s, or what I assume is the early 1990s, when the 486 reigns supreme. This seems to be a decent example from the time period, with 486 power! Alright, let's get into this thing. And this machine is built by Pionex? I've never heard of that. Must be some itty-bitty builder. But it proudly proclaims itself to be a 486DX2 at 66 MHz. We'll see if that's true. And the key lock switch is in the unlock position. That's good because these are also sometimes case locks. And of course the key is nowhere to be found. Then we have the reset and of course the turbo button. Can't be lacking that on a 486. Got our vertically mounted 3.5-inch floppy drive. Very space conscious. And our 5.25-inch drive with an interesting warning label there. Says not to insert those protective sheets. Those would just be floppy-shaped pieces of cardboard that you put in the drive to keep the heads from bouncing around during shipping. Apparently this drive doesn't need that. Some advanced technology there. And they're into the multimedia age with the CD-ROM drive. Looks like a pretty early one. I wonder what they had in this bay. Probably nothing. Sure, the drive cover just got banged out somehow. And here's a look at the back. Seems like someone's had a go at this. All of the screws are missing. And the power supply is just flapping in the breeze in there. Hopefully it didn't do any damage. And see, this is an AT system, and luckily I don't see any corrosion on that keyboard port, so maybe we got lucky and escaped the Varta demon. Those are the batteries that leak all the time and destroy these things. We've got all the standard I/O options for the time. Got the game port, 25-pin serial port, 9-pin serial port, and a parallel port. And that sound card looks interesting. It's usually the good ones that have the volume control right there on the I/O shield. Also, interestingly enough, it looks like it has a breakout I/O shield. Yeah, it looks like that's for line level input and output. So that's interesting to see on an older machine. And a new one for me. And got our VGA card there. Interestingly enough, no modem. Maybe they were using one of the serial or parallel ports for that. And here's a closer look at those labels. I guess Pionex were serious enough to have an FCC ID and serial number. We also have remnants of what must have been a warranty sticker here. Looks like it says Pionex on it, along with some other nondescript strings of text. Alright, let's get this thing open. And since the screwing around is already done, we should just be able to slide this cover off. Man, this thing is remarkably clean. Save for a few spidery exoskeletons. These aren't actually dead spiders, they're just what spiders leave behind after they molt. But look at this thing. Barely any dust. It's like it was barely used. Or it was used in a remarkably clean environment. And, do you see what I see? I see VLB. And that's the VGA card there. Let's go ahead and get into these cards. These are just too interesting. Actually, before we do that, let's get rid of this power supply before it kills us all. It's just hanging out in there, held in by nothing but cables. Man, I've seen modern systems that are way dirtier than this. This is really remarkable. It's got this little cobweb here. Spiders were living it up. And there is something entirely different going on with those sound cards. Yeah, those line in and out ports are on their own separate card, which also appears to be the CD controller. This was before CD-ROM drives connected over IDE, or a TAPI, and every manufacturer had their own CD bus. The proprietary past. But let's start with this graphics card. These are sometimes tricky to get out. Those VLB slots hold on tight. And there's a Cirrus Logic, CL-GD5426. Got a copyright date in 1993 on that BIOS. And like everything else, wonderfully clean. It's actually a pretty nice card for the time. Yeah, VLB was the next best thing before we had PCI. Okay, so this here is the actual sound card. That thing's not coming off without a fight, is it? That's just taking the whole connector off. Let's just hold that down. There we go. Now that's interesting. Yeah, I'm not terribly familiar with this one, though that is an OPL2 chip there, that Yamaha YM3812. We've got an M-Power DSP202 chip over there, so maybe this is a Sound Blaster 2.0 clone? If you know, let me know, because I'd love to know. Manufactured by Top Tech Microcomputer. This thing has almost all through-hole components, except for that M-Power chip. Though those capacitors didn't look too hot. Sometimes when the tubing's melting back like that, could be an indicator of trouble, but not always. What an interesting little card. But this is funny. I just noticed the misspellings on the I/O shield. We got volume control spelled COUTRAL, and foam out, PHOME. So this thing might have been some cheap knockoff. It's funny to see spelling errors pressed in the metal. Okay, now on to mystery number 2. This is also a Top Tech card. So I guess these are sold as a bundle. Looks like it's only for CD-ROM control. So we got all the proprietary formats of the day, Sony, Mitsumi, and Panasonic. So what is the line in port for? Man, this one does not have a single surface mount component. It is all through hole. CD109960. Guess this was before they integrated these things onto the sound card itself. Interesting. And now onto the I/O card. This is the IDE/floppy/serial/parallel/game port. Let's go and get that breakout shield out of there first, because it is in the way. Looks like pretty standard fare for the time. Too bad they couldn't spring for a VLB version. I still can't believe how clean everything is. It's just wonderful. Okay, let's clear these cables out. Let me take special note of this one because I don't think I have one of these cables. Though I believe a regular floppy cable will work. Yeah, it's too bad we don't have a hard drive. We do have remnants of something. Plastic insulator sheet. And there's the motherboard. Looks like it's made by BioStar. Model MB-1433/50, AEA-V, version 5.1. Gonna have to see if this one's on the retro web. If not, I'll get it added. And there's yet another spider exoskeleton. That thing had a full life in here. And how lucky are we? Not only does this thing have an RTC, it's also socketed. This thing does have a slot for an Evil Varta battery too. So we are extra lucky. Came that close. Although I don't recognize that RTC model. These things have an internal battery, and more often than not that battery is dead after 30 years of this thing sitting. It doesn't recharge or anything, and there are modern replacements for these. Or alternatively, you can drill into them and solder on a new battery. We'll worry about that later. What have we got for a CPU? Should be able to slide this heatsink off. Yeah, indeed, an Intel 486DX2. This thing either predates or is too cheap for a ZIF socket. It's one of those nerve-wracking ones where you feel like you're going to bend all the pins shoving the CPU in there. It's like a maximum insertion force socket. It sure seems like this thing was a budget build, at least somewhat. We got no CPU cache, and those RAM sticks are missing half their chips. Though luckily we have metal tabs instead of the achy-breaky plastic ones. And yep, that's a SIM module. Looks like maybe a 1 meg stick. Made in USA. Copyright 1992. And the rest of these look identical. Yep, indeed it is. I'm sure the rest of them are also. Yep. And yep. Identical. Now let's go ahead and sweep out those cobwebs. That seems to be this system's only problem with cleanliness. Yeah, if I was a spider, I'd live in here too. Is there anything better than an RTC that's already socketed? Spoiler, there isn't. So I'm about 90% sure that this is pin compatible with the Dallas RTCs. I don't see any reason why BioStar would get weird this late in the game. So let's go ahead and address that battery issue now. Just gotta snip that zip tie. And get rid of it. And just pull it right out of there. Magical. And you're probably already familiar with this hack, but just for those that aren't, this involves drilling into the module above pins 16 and 20 in order to access the internal battery terminals. At that point, you just solder on an external battery connector, and you're off to the races. Now, is this the best way to accomplish this task? Certainly not. Is it currently the cheapest and most convenient method for me? You betcha. There does exist a modern replacement for these RTCs, developed by the amazing Necroware, and I'll put a link in the video description for more info on those. But so far I've been too lazy and or cheap to buy some. They're not very expensive, so I guess it's just laziness. So with that being said, let's get to hacking. Yeah, you just drill down until you hit metal. There's that terminal. Well, I just buried it under dust, but there it is. Now let's get to the other one. Yeah, there's those terminals. And now I can actually see how much life is left in the internal battery. 0.4 volts. And dropping rapidly. Yeah, that ain't gonna do it. I'm honestly surprised it has that much life left in it. Let's see, what date code does that thing have on it? I'm gonna guess 93. So yeah, over 30 years. And I just realized the stupid camera wasn't recording, but I got that soldered on. This is just a CR2032 battery holder. I left the leads kind of long so that I could mount this in the case somewhere, because with it being behind an ISA slot, it could run into clearance issues if I try to mount it on the top. So I figure I'll put this just in front of the motherboard, and that should work. And let's just schmoo this up for insulation and strain relief. And let's take these towards the front of the case. And let's get it back in there. And this socket holds pretty well. I think that zip tie was just an abundance of caution, probably to keep it from popping out during shipping. Now let's just route this around the BIOS. And I got some sticky Velcro on that battery holder, so I'll just stick that in here. And there we go. Now, putting aside my simmering emotional distress at the fact that somebody already removed this hard drive, let's at least check out the drives we do have. Looks like 3 screws for that 3.5-inch floppy cage. Super convenient. I'm liking this case more and more. Now let's get the big floppy. And now the Sony CD drive. And I was just decaging this 3.5-inch floppy drive when I noticed somebody calculated this screw here. I wonder how in the hell that happens. Well, at least it came out with not much fuss. So there's that. Yeah, and the sheet metal's not even bent. So somebody just shoved that thing in sidewards and cross-threaded it home. Some people, man. It is a good one, though. It's one of the configurable Xenon drives. model FC357. I think that's how you pronounce Chinon. I've never really had to pronounce it before. Is it Chinon? Chinon? On chin? Yeah, one of those. I guess Chinon sounds more elegant. Sounds like a fragrance. Chinon by Calvin Klein. Spindle seems as happy as can be. Well, let's see if the system's wonderful cleanliness extends to the inside of the drives. Getting into these is just a matter of prying these tabs up. Actually, you know what, let's start with this one. There we go. And there's one on the back, and two more of these on the other side. Oh, it just pops right off like that. How convenient. And very minimally dusty. We just have a teeny weeny bit up here. I should go ahead and pull that faceplate. Just push down on these tabs here. Hopefully they don't break. There we go. Defaced successfully. Kind of impressed that there's this much dust in here. It's like the most dust I've seen in this entire system. And I thought that was dirt or dust by the heads, but that's actually just the color of the metal. So let's clean those. No trouble at all. Let's clean and grease that lead screw. And things seem to be moving very freely. It's a good sign. But new grease is better than 30-year-old grease. Just a little dab of white lithium grease. Now let's give it its face back. And close it up. And here's the big brother, 5¼ inch drive. It's also made by Chinon, specifically model FR-506. And this drive also has those configuration jumpers there, right here on the side. Let's see what's going on under the cover. And there's some dust. These drives were hiding this machine's dirty little secrets. There isn't a whole lot though, thankfully. I do want to get under this board though. This seems like a removable connector. Well, maybe it is, but it's taking some uncomfortable amount of pulling force. Let's see if I can just get under it without disconnecting anything. Kinda. See, I know this connector can come off. Now I can disconnect the heads. And that partially does the trick. At least I can hit the lead screw now. And it looks pretty dirty. Let's just grab that dust first. And clean and grease that lead screw. And clean the heads, of course. Yeah, they were a little dirty. Might go over those again. Yeah, all up on the front. Yeah, good thing I did that. Let's hit it again with the clean side. There, that's better. Now we've just got a light smattering of dust on the top here. It should be fine. Let's check that disc mechanism. Seems to do its thing. Does great. And here's that Sony CD-ROM, model CDU31A-02, manufactured in 1993. I'm surprised it doesn't require a caddy. A lot of early CD drives required caddies like these. These would just open up and enclose the disk. Then you would just insert the whole thing into the drive. But this one actually uses a traditional tray that we're all familiar with now. So that's interesting. And there's the Sony proprietary bus connector. No IDE or a TAPI here. Well, here's a power supply form factor I don't see very often. I think it's a mini AT, but I'm not completely sure. It's taller than an ATX power supply, but not as wide as a standard AT power supply. It looks kind of like they chopped off that overhang that the old AT power supplies have. Yeah, it's an uncommon one, at least around these parts, so hopefully it works. And it's made by Best Tech, with an output rating of 200 watts. That seems fair. Let's see what it does. And I have no idea where my little voltmeter got to, so I'm just going to switch the fluke around. Let's see if we can finally kill those sacrificial hard drives. Here we go. Nope, not today. We're at 12 volts. Let's check the 5 volt rail. Fair enough. Alright, that thing's doing fine. There were considerably less spider skeletons coming out of that fan than I expected. Just let that thing work for 5 minutes. Okay, that is time. Let's just switch back over to the 12 volt rail. And we're still good. Alright, I think this thing's a good one. Now, this motherboard is full of these tantalum capacitors, which love to explode. So let's just check all these power rails for shorts. That's not a perfect predictor of failure because these could go short when they first get power, but we'll at least be able to tell if there's a pre-existing condition. We'll just go through all 4 of the outer pins. Good there. A little beep's okay, it just means they're charging. Good there. That's good. Next 2 are ground. All good. Actually, the next 4 are ground, which are these 2. Yep. That one's good. And the next 3 are all the same, and they're good. So I guess let's see if they explode. And I just realized how uniquely married this case is with this power supply. This metal is cut out to not only accommodate this switch, but also to accommodate these fan screws. And of course, power connectors. So getting another power supply in this case is going to be a unique undertaking. Let's hope we don't have to do that. Now let's just do a quick fire test with nothing connected to see if we get any tantalum explosions. Sending power. Alright, that's actually a good sign because we don't have any RAM. I expected to be complaining. I think we're good. Let's get this thing back together. Alright, here's post attempt number 1. Hopefully it's the only one. And not a single thing looks happy. What is going on? And no beeps and no posts. When those drive lights stay on, usually it means I've flipped the floppy cable. That doesn't explain why the CD-ROM drive light's staying on. I'm about 90% sure I put them back the way they came. Let's try flipping the floppy cable first. Let's see. No, that didn't help. And obviously we're still not posting. Let's just disconnect floppy and CD-ROM drives for right now. One more time. Okay. At least we got some beeps. Sad sounding beep. The same thing it was doing when I had no RAM. And those drive lights should have gone out by now. This thing may not be happy at all. Let me just remove everything except the video card. See what happens. Okay, that's everything out except the video card. When I did have that floppy cable flipped, it was flipped where it connects to the 3.5-inch drive. Let's see what we get now. That's not good. That's not good at all. Okay, so that's 10 slow beeps. Oh no, it's gone cycling again. So 10 beeps. I'm pretty sure that's a CMOS error, or an error with the CMOS itself. I wonder if I bent one of those RTC pins when I put it back in. Well, I didn't bend a pin, but I did do a stupid. Do you see what's wrong? Or shift it over by one pin that way. Yeah, this is what happens when you're trying to do this while dickering around the camera. Hopefully I didn't kill this. Let's just put that back proper. See what we get now. Let's see. Okay, it's not complaining. And we're counting, and we're posting. Yeah, that was it. And we didn't kill it. All right, counted up 4 megs of RAM. We have the obvious CMOS errors, because obviously it's unconfigured. All right, let's get everything back in this thing. All right, I've got all the innards back inwards. Let's try this again. This time I'm so confident it'll work. Put a boot disk in there. Famous last words. All right, good post. Didn't get a floppy seek though. Let's just try to resume. All right, here we go. Standard CMOS setup. All right, let's continue. I'm just gonna let that be 1980. And we do have a B drive. All right. Let's write CMOS and exit. Yes. Yeah, there's some drive seeks. Oh, maybe that's not a boot disk. I guess I formatted it for some reason. One moment. Okay, got a proper boot disk now. Let's get that out of there. Continue. Yeah, there we go. Finally, we're booting. Okay, we don't care about date and time right now. There we are. Now, of course, I don't have anything on here, but we can at least test 3.5-inch drive. So let's get a disk in there. Come on, B drive. And it works. All right, this machine's well on its way, but I want to get a hard drive in this thing. So now it's time to hit the hoard and see what I can find that's compatible. Need a suitably old drive. All right, I dug this up. It's not exactly era appropriate, but it's pretty close. A 2GB Western Digital Caviar from 1998. So that's about 5 years newer than the system itself, which in terms of 90s tech, that might as well have been 50 years. Things are moving so fast back then. Not even sure if this thing works. I guess we'll find out. But at least it gives us CHS parameters, because I highly, highly doubt that system supports auto detection. All right, let's get it in and see what it does. Okay, I've got that drive haphazardly connected, just in case it doesn't work. Don't want to have to go digging it back out of there. Let's see what it does. Did spin up. And sounds like it initialized. Getting the setup. Oh, this thing does support auto detection. Hopefully it works. Let's see. Taking a suspiciously long time. Oh, looks like it did. Yes, I accept those parameters. Okay, why is it auto-detecting again? I guess it thinks there's a secondary. Come on, we're so close. Don't fail now. If it does, I could just manually enter those CHS parameters. Yeah, it was looking for a D drive. So yes, I accept those parameters. All right, let's write that out. Yes. I'm doing an awful lot of waiting. That may not be good. And it didn't get it. We were that close. Guess this drive is just a little bit too modern. You know what? Let's try to format it anyway. It has to be able to do something. It auto-detected it. So I got fdisk on B drive. Well, it's not complaining. Found the fixed disk. Let's try to create a partition. Primary DOS. Yeah, there it is. And apparently it already has a partition on there. In a very strange layout. Okay, so I guess let's go delete that. Delete, I guess the non-DOS partition. I don't know what happened to this thing. Get rid of it. Yes. Alright, now let's delete wherever that partition is. Primary DOS partition. Get rid of it. There's no volume label. Yes, I'm sure. Alright, now, see if we can do our thing. Use all available space. Alright, let's see. Well, still trying to fail. That's weird. Maybe there's a jumper setting or something on that hard drive controller that's not set correctly. Well, let's see if we can go format it. This one, loud 3.5-inch drive. It's funny how much louder it is than the 5.25-inch drive. Okay, well, it looks like it wants to format. Let's see. Oh, we got 500 megabytes, so that's close enough. It is formatting. Ew, that's not good. Stopped at 23%. Hard drive's making clicky sounds. Guess that drive has some bad sectors. Nah, it's probably just that controller freaking out. Oh, it got through it. Okay, let's see if we got lucky. Well, no bad sectors reported. That's strange. Maybe it saved itself. Let's try to copy some stuff to it. Okay, no complaints there. And it copied. Maybe we're good. Let's try to make it bootable. Alright, things are looking better. Guess I'll see if it boots. Better get rid of that auto exec.bat. That'll probably hooba-joop things. Alright, well, let's get these disks out of there and see if it boots. Control-Alt-Delete. Yeah, still with the complaints. Keep going. Yeah, not bootable. And it didn't even try. Okay, that is strange, but not entirely unbelievable. I'm pretty sure this is not a boot order problem. Let's go see. Keyboard error. Oh, come on. I'm literally using the keyboard. See, it should have just gone straight to C drive. Let's try to make C first. And see if that does it. Beep, beep. Keep going. Yeah, it ain't having it. I need an older hard drive. Hey, this one's slightly older. Like, not even 3 years older. That might be just enough to make the difference for this controller. And I have no earthly clue where it came from. Sure, I pulled out of some old system from somewhere. Sometime. Let's give it a spin. Oh, it does spin. Double plus good. Let's get in the setup and auto detect it. Okay, that went a lot faster than the previous drive. I am feeling better about this one. Let's let it take forever to figure out there's no D drive. No D. Let's write that out. Aha! No more complaining. And it's booting something. What is this? Oh, whatever it is, it's Windows 95 with the Microsoft Plus pack. Okay, it dislikes that CD-ROM drive. It's looking for a Matsushita drive. Doesn't like that Sony. Let's abort that. Well, that drive sounds delicious. Alright, missing some crapola. Continue. And is that the science theme? Oh, I remember this system, or the system that this hard drive came from. Yeah, it was one of those pizza box-ish systems. Okay, we don't have a mouse connected, obviously. I wasn't expecting a GUI. It's doing its thing, though. I'm 4 megabytes of Fury. And CD Speedster is not too happy. Now, the big question is, do I continue with Windows 95? I really want to test that Sony CD-ROM drive. I did plan to just get straight DOS on this thing, but a functional OS is a functional OS, and it seems to be perfectly happy. So let's actually shut it down and get a serial mouse connected. Aha, classic. It is now safe to turn off your computer. Okay, so it turns out finding Windows drivers for the CD-ROM drive was woefully optimistic, so we're going to scale back our ambitions and just try to get it working under DOS. I did find this driver that's supposedly for this specific CD-ROM drive. I can't find any specifically for that TopTech card though. That could be a problem, but we got a setup program here. See if it works. Okay, doesn't seem to be doing much of anything. Okay, it's been about 2 minutes now. Looking like that didn't work. Yeah, we're at 5 minutes. I'm gonna call that a fail. And you know, I spent an hour searching for the TopTech specific drivers. It yielded some interesting results, but nothing for these particular cards. This is why I hate when systems don't come with their hard drives. Well, one of the reasons. A lot of these drivers are just gone. I could theoretically take that slcd.sys file and make a config.sys entry for it. The problem is, I have no idea what the base memory address for that TopTech card is. I do want to see if that install program will do anything. So we're going to have to reboot this because it's locked up hard. What was that, install 2? Yeah. Oh, it's doing something. Sony Sound Blaster CD-ROM device driver. Which drive is the Sony Sound Blaster install disk in? And that seems like a type of thing you can figure out programmatically, but okay, B drive. Oh, is it installing? What the? Did you hear that sound? It was clearly a sad sound, and yeah, this thing's falling on its face left and right. I gotta do that again. I gotta hear that stupid sound. Somebody is having way too much fun creating this program. Okay, well, I highly doubt this is doing anything except making an amusing sound. Let's see. Yeah, it created a config.sys file, which is obviously completely blank. Oh well, it was worth a try. Well, can we at least see if the thing opens? Yeah, it sure does. Quite violently. That's funny. And yeah, this is normal for this drive. They don't automatically extend all the way out, which means I bet they don't automatically retract either. Yep, absolutely not. Well, let's see if it seems like it wants to read a disk. Yeah, it ain't making too much noise. I don't hear anything. Let's try to see if it's even rotating the disk. Let's see. I'll set it about straight up and down like that. Give it a couple of seconds. And see. Did it move? Nope. Huh. See, these drives are dumber than I thought. Or maybe there's something wrong with it. Well, without the proper drivers, we'll never know for sure. Okay, I have a new idea. Thanks to a very helpful YouTube video from a channel called The Vintage Collection, I was able to find this device string. So I figure we can just brute force that memory address until we find the right one. Yeah, it should only take a couple of 3 days. Let's start with 220. Save that. And go ahead and reboot. And also added an MSC-DEX entry to autoexec.bat, just in case. Oh, there's the driver loading. But it didn't find it. Well, on to the next one. Let's go to 240. Nope. Alright, we're at 340. Let's see. Ha ha ha, that was it! That was it. And it even detects the tray type and all kinds of other stuff. That's interesting. And MSC-DEX found it. Let's see if that thing works. Clunk. I love that. I'm gonna put that straight up and down again so you can see. But hey, the LED changed this time. It didn't do that last time, I don't think. Okay, I hear some ever so subtle sounds of rotation and laser lens clicking. Alright, D drive. Let's see. Well, that's not a good sign. I do hear it trying to read. Trying its best. And it failed. And I'm pretty sure that's hardware. Although, I do have another trick up my sleeve. Got a few more drivers to try. There's 1.73 and 1.74. And yes, I'm going to try all of them. Starting at 173. And yeah, that driver seems to work. Do we get any different results? No. Although it failed a lot more quickly that time. That's probably because the drive already determined that it can't read that disk. So probably not much point in trying the 174 driver. However, I do want to try another disk, just in case that's the issue. Let's dir that. Yeah, seems to be doing the same thing. Yep, same thing. That's a hardware problem. But just because I said I was going to, let's try the 174 driver. Alright, once again. Yeah, that's a no. Alright. Even I know when to give up sometimes. It's already 11 p.m. on Friday, and I still have to edit a lot of this video. If I miss another upload, pretty sure YouTube's gonna send the black helicopters after me. So we're just got to call this drive dead. For now. Ah, who am I kidding? We gotta at least try to clean the laser lens. So let's get this thing apart. Let's just pop that tray open because it probably needs to be done. That thing is sensitive. Did you see that? It just... slightest little touch. Interesting little mechanism. It's got a hair trigger. Now let's just flip that over. Usually you got to get rid of these face plates. So I've got some clips back here. There we go. And I did notice a broken clip here. So this thing may have been subject to shock at some point. Could be part of its issue. But now we got to get this faceplate off. Which means pressing on that broken clip. Wow, this thing is really serviceable. Check out those easily accessible adjustment pots. Got F-bias, EFB, F-gain, and T-gain. I don't know what any of that means, but it's certainly something we can play with later to see if we can get this thing back to life. I wonder if there's some documented adjustment procedure for these. Okay, now this upper metal needs to come off, and I see clips, 2 on each side. I'm guessing they drop the mechanism down. Seems to be going. There we go. That's giving us a lot less access than I thought it was going to. This is a very strange drive. And I keep hearing something rattling, but I'm still not seeing it. Yeah, there's something rattling. Ha! Got a broken clip there. I think that was it. Okay, now this thing is turning into an enigma. Do we have to remove the logic board? Whoa, do you see that? Look at those capacitors. They just fell off the board. So I'm guessing they leaked and corroded. Okay, well, I think we found the problem. Let's take this board out and inspect the damage. But there is no way I'm fixing that in this video. Oh yeah, that's looking rough. And it seems like every single one of those electrolytic capacitors has leaked. Well, let that be a warning to anyone who has one of these drives. They're probably going to need proactive recapping. And here's a full view of the board for those who are interested. I'm guessing that's a part number there. Yeah, we're going to have to put a pin in this. But, you know, as long as those traces aren't too corroded, this is definitely fixable. But you know what? We can do some quick exploratory surgery. Let's clean up those pads and see how bad the damage is. Okay, well, looks like the copper's not terribly pressed. Yeah, you know, I think this drive could come back. Doesn't seem too bad. Seems like it's that type of corrosion that only attacks solder. I'm not sure what's going on chemically, but I've seen it before. Just the solder itself corrodes, and the copper seems relatively unaffected. And just from the vibration of the Dremel, we lost another one. Came right off. So I'll just go ahead and hit this board with a neutralizing agent, white vinegar and distilled water. Then I'll take note of all the caps, and then we'll put a pin in this. Poor Sony. Yet another victim of the lesser-known capacitor plague. Other than that, though, this system's pretty mint. Save from the yellowing and a bit of scuffs here and there. Really don't think it was used very often. This case is pretty stout, too. Even when I had the top cover off, you know how they get kind of flimsy. This one stayed pretty rigid. And it was built to last. Yeah, and that's the end of this chapter. At least until I dig back into that CD-ROM drive. Gotta use that power of stubbornness to some good. Thank you so much to all the patrons and channel supporters. You're all amazing. See you next time.